Today we'll talk about something interesting. We'll talk about circumstancing. Okay? So circumstancing is an important aspect where you deal with situational processing of the rules. So instead of having different scenarios and having to create multiple rules and all for it. So what we do is we circumstance the rule so that we will let the system pick the right one in the given context. Right? If you remember, we were talking about rule resolution. It has a lot of steps where one of the important factors is circumstancing. It will check whether there's any circumstancing template for that rule. And then that is also given an important weightage. Right?
Yes.
So circumstancing is all about bringing in exceptional scenarios or bringing in some special scenarios for specific business conditions. Instead of creating more and more rules, more and more conditions and all, what we do is we circumstance the rule. So according to the business scenario that you give, the right circumstance rule would be picked. So you might have observed this. For example, when you open your office portal, right? You will have your office portals, right? If you open it during your birthday month, you will have a celebration theme, correct? Whereas for rest of the months, you will see a normal theme is displayed in the background. So this happens for every employee that works in your organization. Now, when I start developing this as part of Pega, should I create one rule for each one of you? No. Instead, what will I do is circumstance the rule according to the birth dates. So the circumstancing lets us handle different business scenarios in one single go. And generally, what rules are circumstanced? So generally, all the business rules would be circumstanced. I mean, first preference is always for your business rules, like correspondences, and SLAs, then the UI related ones. Probably you can say sections. So, and along with that, we can circumstance a lot of other technical rules also. I mean, too much of technical stuff, yes. Your flows, flow actions, so all those can also be circumstanced. But most frequently, what we circumstance is your SLAs, then your correspondence rules, be it your, we can talk about, what do we say, sections, right? The ones that are displayed in the UI, be it your paragraphs or sections that we create. When it comes to circumstancing, I have 4 different options in which I can start circumstancing my rules. Based on single value, based on multiple value, based on date, and based on as of date. So here the purpose is according to the inputs that I give or according to the case specific inputs, the appropriate rule would be picked. I cannot keep on creating a rule for each of my special conditions. So instead, we are circumstancing the same rule according to the different business scenarios that are coming. I think we'll go ahead directly. We'll do this rather than discussing much. So we'll look at the circumstancing directly on the application. Okay. But before that, let's see what do I have on my case type. First, we'll circumstance it with a single property where you define a property and you define a value for it. Okay? And if that value matches with the particular case instance, then the circumstance rule would be picked. Otherwise, your base rule is picked. What do I have on my transaction currently? Okay, so here I'm having some SID, first name and last name. Yeah, okay, so here I have first name. So, okay, let's do one thing. I would like to uh, add in one more step for collect information. Okay, okay, I would like to name it collect customer. So now my agenda is let us circumstance a section rule. Okay, so I'm going to circumstance a section rule based upon a single property. So let's take this personal info as the section. You already have it. Okay, this personal info section is what we are going to circumstance. And on what basis? On particular, let's take a customer type. According to the customer, I would like to show a UI. So if the premium customer, I would like to show a lot more nicer UI. And if he's a standard customer, I would show him a regular UI. So let me just define a field for customer type. Okay, I'll let it be a text. Okay, now, yes, here is the personal info. Now, how would I circumstance this? So for any rule, if you see this option, specialized by circumstance, which means it is enabled for circumstance. So if at all for any rule you see this, it is enabled for circumstance. So let me specialize by circumstance. And I think we could just remove all of this, the student list and all that was created, I think. Remove this. Okay, now, okay, let me just remove this. I don't want my screen to look, my form to look too long, so I'm just going to delete this. I mean, this has got nothing to do with the circumstancing or something. Just to make my form a little simpler, I remove this. Save it. Now we'll go ahead, specialize by circumstance. Okay. Now on what basis are you circumstancing it? Circumstance by I'm using a property, right? So let's see. I'm going to select property and date, where you can either choose a date or a property for it. So what is my property? It's going to be customer type. Okay? So if the customer type is premium, I would like to show this particular section, get personal info. And you see, I did not change the name. And of course, it is not editable. Right? If you save as it, it's like you're creating a new instance. I mean, it's like you are creating a fresh rule again. I don't want that. Same rule should be there, same name, but just that I'm circumstancing it. So here I would like to add in some let me add in some labels here so that I would know that this is part of premium customer. Okay, so I will let it be something like this. Welcome, you're a premium customer. So for us to know that this is part of the circumstance rule. So you see the rule status, it is available and it is circumstanced. Okay, and you see what is it circumstanced by a property. If the property called customer type is premium, then this particular rule would be picked. Okay, good. Let us add in one more circumstance. Again, I cannot change this. Let this be property. I would choose customer type again. This time it is going to be a standard customer. Okay, let's add in a label again. Okay. Right. So I've circumstanced get personal info into two types. One is, I mean, both are based on property. One is for standard, one is for premium. Okay. Now, according to the particular instance, right, according to the case that you create, if the customer is a standard customer, I will show this screen. If he is a regular customer, a premium customer, I will show this. If he is none of them, okay, if no selection is made or no value is there for uh, customer type, then it goes to the base rule. Okay? Or if the customer could be of any other type, he could be a regular customer, probably. Okay? So for that, again, the normal base rule would be picked. Let's see how this works. And who makes sure that the right rule is picked here in this context? The rule resolution algorithm takes care and it makes sure that the right rule instance is picked. You know, looking at the versions and all of it, because we have got different versions also. Let's see the customer type. Let's give premium. What do I see? So the section that is part of the circumstanced based upon the property for premium is displayed. What if I wouldn't give anything, or I'll give some other value for it? Instead of this, I'll give maybe I'm a platinum customer. Okay. So what do I see for platinum customer? Do I have any circumstance rule specific to this? No. So the system has to pick the base rule. Yes. So the base rule of get personal info without any labels and all has been displayed. Yeah. So based upon property is like you can say one of the easiest ways of circumstancing is based upon a single property that we have done now. Okay. Now let's do it based upon multiple properties. It's not just single property this time. I have multiple properties. Then how do I deal with this circumstance? For that, I think do we have any SLAs? I don't think we have any SLAs, right? Okay, let me do one thing. We'll configure an SLA and we will try to circumstance the SLA based upon two entities. Okay, we'll see what it is, but let us add in some SLA. SLAs are your timelines, right? In order to complete a task in a given period of time. They are more like goal, deadline, and deadline, where you set some boundaries and within that milestones, the task has to be completed. Okay, let's do one thing. This is related to recruitment and interview. Let's take this written test. For this, we will use a SLA. Ideally, how much does it show? It says, okay, let me give it to like 10 days for this and 20 days for this. So the ideal time for getting your written test done is 10 days is the goal time, 20 days is the deadline time. Okay. This is the ideal behavior. This I don't need any. I'll just remove. Now, as this is something related to recruitment, I would like to have two things. One is the location and the number of days to join. So these two things are important for me. What are those? The joining location and the number of days for joining. Now, according to these two, I will circumstance my SLAs. Okay, according to the joining date, according to the location and the number of days to join. So this comes from the business. So the business gives me that in a Bangalore location, within 15 days, I want a candidate to be hired. Or in Delhi location, within the next 2 months, I want a candidate to be hired. So that comes from the business. Now, according to that, I will have to circumstance my written test. Okay, let's see. Do I have those details already? No. Let me first configure my properties because this time my circumstancing is based on two properties. One is the joining location. I let it be a text, and the other one is number of days to join. So this time I have two things to look after. Earlier it was just a customer type, but now I have two things. So we submit. Okay, and I have, okay, if I just save and run this, do I see the goal and deadline for written test? I think I'll jump directly. I'll change stage. I'll jump directly to the interview. I'm just avoiding all my other interviews here. Let me see. So yes, 10 days is the goal time, 20 days is the deadline time. So without any criteria, without any circumstancing, this is how it looks. Good. Now let's go ahead and circumstance the SLA. Let's open the SLA. But circumstancing based upon multiple properties is called a template based circumstance. Okay? When it is just one property, I call it property based circumstance. If it's two or more, I call it template based circumstance. So here is my SLA, 10 days and 20 days, good. Save as and specialize by circumstance. But we have few prerequisites here before going into this. Now I chose a template. But what does it show? You need to have a template and you need to have a definition. Two things are required. These two are my prerequisites. I need to create a circumstance template and I need to create a circumstance definition here. So what are those? Let's see, let's create one. I'll just use the create method. Create. So your circumstance template and circumstance definition are under the technical category. Let's just create the template. Template is nothing but you decide what all properties are you looking at for this customization, okay? Or for this circumstance. This is for SLA. Okay. SLA for, what do I name it? Written test SLA template. Okay, this is for an SLA and for an assignment called written test. And and where should I apply this? My XY. Yes, so this is the class that I would want. Name of HRS work dash. Okay. So what do you define on the template is just the properties. What all properties are you considering? This joining location. And notice label for us. And number of days. Let me save it. So template is just going to have the properties. So the next step is to create the definition, as in on what basis or when and exactly do you like the circumstance rule to be picked. Here you just mention the properties, but on the definition you are going to mention the actual conditions. Circumstance definition. And there's a mapping between these two as well. There's an association. Okay, so it is asking, so which template are you associating this definition to? So, what is it? Written, yeah, yes, it is here. Written test template. And I think I'll use the same kind of naming convention. SLA definition. Okay, and yes, recruitment. Created. So now what should I do on the definition? Is this similar to your decision table? Right? So all the properties you mention on the template will turn out to be columns, whereas your conditions will be turned out as rows. Okay, so we can define your rows. For example, if my joining location is Delhi, and I want a candidate to join within 30 days. Okay. And I can add in multiple conditions. Let me add in one more row. Or if I want him to join within 45 days. Okay. So you can add an number of conditions, and when any of these conditions is met, your circumstance rule would be picked. Okay. Let me see that. Let me go back. Where is my SLA? Okay, let me initialize by circumstance. And this time, do I have a template? Yes. Written test. And sometimes if it doesn't populate, you can just copy. Okay, and for the definition, I think at least the definition should be populated. It's populated, yeah, because we have associated this definition with this template, right? So you see, and for one template, you can have n number of definitions. The conditions could differ, right? So you can have n number of definitions. Let us change this to, yeah, I cannot give 10 days here. Maybe I'll give, oh, sorry, this is urgency, right? My bad. Let me just refresh this one. So I cannot give 10 days anymore. So I might give 3 days for this and 5 days for this. Okay, now this is part of my circumstance rule, which is circumstance based upon, what is it based upon? The template. What template is used? WT SLA template, and what definition is used is this. I can create more definitions for different conditions, and I can customize the SLA for it. But first, let's see if this is working or not. All of these are saved. This is just similar to your decision table, but just that this cannot be delegated. I don't think this can be delegated. Yeah, you cannot delegate this. Otherwise, rest of the functionalities are all the same. Now, if my condition is any of these, where's my, yeah, if my case instance satisfies any of these conditions, I'll get the new SLAs, which is 3 days and 5 days. Otherwise, I'll get 10 days and 20 days. Okay, let's see. Okay, so what would we give is, I think we'll try the second one, Bangalore and 45. Okay. And yes, what is it that I see? 3 days and 5 days. So does it mean the new circumstance SLA is picked? Yes.
Yes.
And what if I would give something else other than it's there on the template? I give something else. Its joining location is Hyderabad. Okay, and 10 days is my time. What would I expect this time? So I'll directly go to the interview. And what would I see is, yes, it took the base. Okay, so it will check the rows of your definition one by one. And once it is satisfied, it will no longer be in that. The control returns back. Then your circumstance rule would be picked, and that is all. There ends this part of template and definition. I can create more and more definitions for the same template, and I can have it for different SLAs. Yeah. And that's why you always see an association between the definition and the template. So you see, it is with respect to this template. Okay. So we can add in more and more properties also depending upon your business scenario. So we just took 2 for now, joining location and days, but there can be more also. Right. So that's about the circumstancing based on the template where you have multiple properties. You can also call the property